The neon sign of the Blue Moon Saloon flickered erratically, reflecting off the rain-slicked asphalt like broken promises, casting long, distorted shadows across the line of hopefuls waiting to get in. The thump, thump, thump of the bass from inside reverberated through the walls, a primal heartbeat echoing in the damp, late autumn air, the scent of stale beer, cheap perfume. And that unmistakable whiff of desperation clung to the place, the kind of place people went to escape, to forget who they really were. Standing guard at the entrance, a human barricade of muscle and menace, was Derek Simmons, at 31. Derek had spent the better part of a decade as a bouncer, and somewhere along the line, he'd confused brute strength with authority. He stood 6'5", a solid 260 of gym sculpted intimidation, and he ran that door like a two-bit tyrant, deciding who was worthy to enter and who was not. And tonight, like most nights, he was itching to make an example of someone. Before we get ahead of ourselves, if you believe in karma, respect for your elders, and justice for those who abuse their power, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, because stories like this are a stark reminder that what goes around always comes around. The old man appeared at the edge of the line, just past 11 p.m. His name was Grizzly Ray Thompson, and at 73 years old, he'd lived a life Derek couldn't even begin to imagine. He was lean now, his once imposing frame whittled down by age and a dodgy ticker, a heart condition that had forced him off his beloved Harley 2 years prior. He wore a well-worn leather jacket, old and cracked, but meticulously cared for, showing no signs of any patches or colors. He was just a man trying to get through the evening without incident. Ray had been at a nearby diner with old friends from his glory days, swapping stories over coffee, when his medication hit him harder than expected. He needed a restroom, and the diner had already closed theirs for the night for cleaning. The Blue Moon Saloon was the closest option. He approached the door slowly, one hand pressed against his stomach, the other raised in a gesture of peace. He explained to Derek that he wasn't there to party, that he just needed to use the facilities, and then he'd be on his way. His voice was calm, respectful, the voice of a man who understood that courtesy costs nothing. Derek sized him up and down with open contempt. He saw the weathered face, the faded leather jacket, the slight tremor in the man's hands. He saw weakness, and Derek had always enjoyed crushing weakness. He told the old man to take a hike. No way some washed-up biker was setting foot in his club. He called him names that made the people in line cringe. He told him to go relieve himself in an alley, like the animal he was. Ray tried one last time. He reiterated his situation, adding that he had a medical condition. He wasn't looking for trouble. He just needed 5 minutes. Derek stepped forward. Her chest puffed out, finger jabbing into Ray's face. He gave him 3 seconds to disappear, before things got ugly. Ray didn't move, not out of defiance, but because his legs were weak, and his pride wouldn't allow him to be chased away like some stray mutt. He simply stood there, looking up at the younger man with tired eyes. That's when Derek hit him. Not a push, well, not a shove. A full-blown punch to the face. That sent a 73-year-old man sprawling onto the wet pavement. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. Ray lay there, blood gushing from his nose, his old jacket soaked in the filthy water collecting in the gutter. Derek laughed. He actually laughed. He announced to the crowd that that was what happened when geriatric garbage didn't know its place. What Derek didn't know, what he couldn't have possibly known, was that Grizzly Ray Thompson had earned that nickname for a damn good reason. Back in his prime, he had been one of the most respected members of the Hells Angels, a founding father of the movement in 3 states. He had retired from active club life 15 years ago, but his legacy remained, and, more importantly, his 3 sons had continued that legacy. Marcus Thompson was president of the largest Hells Angels chapter on the eastern seaboard. David Thompson ran the Southwest Territories, and the youngest. Samuel Thompson was the national enforcer, the man responsible for security across every chapter in America. Between them, they commanded the unwavering loyalty of over 2,000 members. And someone in that crowd outside the Blue Moon Saloon had recognized Ray, had witnessed the assault, and had made a phone call before the old man even hit the ground. Ray was helped to his feet by strangers and rushed to the ER. Broken nose, bruised ribs, concussion. The doctors kept him overnight for observation. 48 hours later, Derek Simmons showed up for his shift at the Blue Moon Saloon like nothing had happened. It was a Friday night, prime business hours, and he was already in a foul mood because his beat-up car had broken down that morning. He heard the sound before he saw anything. A low rumble, like distant thunder, except it didn't fade. It grew, and grew, and grew. Derek stepped outside, and his blood ran cold. The street was gone. In its place was a sea of motorcycles, 500 or more, stretching as far as the eye could see. Harleys idling, chrome gleaming under the streetlights, exhaust fumes rising like war smoke, and everywhere, the red and white patches of the Hells Angels. At the head of the formation, 3 men sat astride their bikes, even from a distance. Derek could sense the sheer authority they radiated. The crowd that had gathered instinctively parted as the 3 dismounted and walked towards the club. The owner of the Blue Moon Saloon came scurrying out, his face ashen. He knew who these men were. Everyone in the industry knew who these men were. Marcus Thompson spoke first. His voice was calm, almost conversational, but it carried the force of an avalanche. He inquired which one of them was Derek Simmons. The owner pointed with a trembling finger. Marcus walked right up to Derek, who had suddenly forgotten how to breathe. Behind him, David and Samuel flanked their brother, arms crossed, faces like carved granite. Marcus calmly explained the situation. 2 days ago, his father, Grizzly Ray Thompson, had come to this establishment seeking a modicum of human decency. Instead, he had been viciously assaulted by a coward who mistook his size for strength. His father was now in the hospital, nursing a broken nose and a concussion. His father, who had built more than Derek could ever comprehend. His father, who had earned a level of respect that Derek couldn't even begin to fathom. Derek started to stammer an excuse, something about not knowing, about how the old man had been disrespectful. Samuel stepped forward and told him to shut his mouth. His voice was like ice shattering. He said Derek had made his choice when he decided to punch a 73-year-old man for asking to use the damn bathroom. Now it was time to face the consequences of that choice. But the consequences weren't going to be violence. Not physical violence. That wasn't how the Thompson brothers operated. Not at all. Instead, Marcus. He turned to the club owner and explained, nice and slow, that every business owner in this town, every single one, would be getting a visit tomorrow. Every diner, every gas station, every dry cleaner that employed Derek Simmons would be marked, not threatened. Understand it? Just been marked. And 2,000 brothers wouldn't touch the place with a 10-foot pole, along with their family, their friends, their extensive network. You get the picture? The owner, a sweating, quivering mess, fired Derek right then and there, begging for mercy, promising, pleading. It would never happen again. But that wasn't enough. David, ice in his veins, pulled out his phone and showed Derek a video. Security footage, crystal clear, from the diner down the street, clearly showing the assault. That video, he explained, with a chilling calm, had already been sent to the police, along with statements from 30 witnesses. Assault on an elderly person, in this state, was a felony. Derek would be receiving a visit from law enforcement. Very soon. Finally, Samuel, the quietest of the three, stepped close, his face inches from Derek's, almost nose to nose. He said this wasn't revenge, not even close. This was education. He said that Derek had spent years thinking he was powerful, because he could hurt people, weaker than himself. He said that wasn't power, that was cowardice, pure, unadulterated. Cowardice. Real strength, he said, was protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Real power was earning respect, not demanding it. He told Derek to remember this night. Every time he thought about raising his hand against someone vulnerable, he should remember the 500 brothers outside and the thousands more who would come if needed. Remember this. Then the three brothers turned and walked back to their bikes, a silent, menacing ballet. The formation held for one more moment, engines roaring in unison, like a declaration of war that would never need to be fought. Then, slowly, they began to move, a river of chrome and leather, flowing down the street and disappearing into the night. Gone. Derek stood alone on the sidewalk, watching them go, his entire life crumbling around him. Dust. 3 weeks later. Grizzly. Ray Thompson was released from the hospital. His sons threw him a small party at the clubhouse, and nothing fancy, just family and close brothers. When they wheeled him in, 200 members rose to their feet in silent respect. Raymond smiled, that tired, wise smile of his, and said he supposed he should get punched more often, if this was the welcome home treatment. A chuckle. The room erupted in laughter, because that was Raymond. Even at 73, even with a broken nose and bruised ribs, he could still light up a room. A legend, and somewhere across town, in the city jail, Derek Simmons sat in a cell, awaiting trial for felony assault, wondering how one punch had cost him everything. And before we end, we have one special request for you. Comment below with the words, "Respect your elders," to show that you understand that age deserves dignity, not contempt, because Grizzly Ray Thompson did nothing wrong that night. He asked for basic courtesy and was attacked for it. Let this story remind you that you never know who you are dealing with. The quiet old man at the door might be a legend. The humble stranger might have an army behind them, and the person you dismiss as weak might have strength you cannot imagine. But more importantly, let it remind you that how you treat the vulnerable says everything about who you are. Derek had every opportunity to show kindness. He chose cruelty instead. And cruelty, as he learned, always has a price. Be better than Derek. Respect everyone, because karma never forgets.